Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Do we have everybody? Nope. We have 7. Still waiting. Okay. I okay. I got your short answer question just like minutes before the class. I do not know how to speed read, and so you're gonna have to wait, but we'll explain how to work on this question first, all right? 11. So we're waiting for 2 more, is that right? All right. Maggie, do we wait or do we start?
Shall we start first? We only don't have Sonny, yeah, Sonny Chen or Sonny Chen.
Sonny Chen, all right, from Panama. Okay,
Yeah, okay, let me call him.
sure. Thank you. All righty, ladies and gentlemen. Today is our class meeting 6, I believe. Yes. So this is we're already halfway through. So yesterday we talked about age of revolution, and today we're going to move on to industrialization and its consequences. So today, starting from today on, we're going to practice TPQ. Okay, we're going to use the very same prompt, okay, instead of different prompt every time. So use the same prompt to target all 7 points in DPQ. And once, hey, here comes Sunny. All right. So once we know how to work on a particular prompt, all right, and you can apply that strategy to whatever period, units, DPQ prompt you may encounter in your exam. All right. So today we're gonna start from the SAQ. I see most of you turning your short answer question, and I will take a look tomorrow. Okay, but before that, let's take a look what the question we're supposed to answer. Right. So first of all, look at the year is 1848, right? So we're 1848, and that's Karl Marx. What's the odd? We stopped at the socialism yesterday, right? And then we talk about how Marx was proposing to reform, right, the society, and he argued that. Actually, I do have it right here, right? So he argued that the problem is what? The social conflicts, right? So right here, no, this one. So it's the class conflicts, right? And this class conflicts is mainly a product of this private property. So when private property was achieved by this class of gentry class, right? So gentry class proposed this private property right, and in England, and managed to secure a new house called House of Commons, right? And starting to point on, okay, people started to aiming for what? Accumulating fortunes, right? Wealth to escalate their social status, right? So the concept of owning private property lead to this social class and lead to this class conflicts, right? So that's basically what Marx was arguing about, right? And his evidence would be like slaves versus masters, right? And peasants versus nobles, and working class now versus middle class, right? So we know the background information that we can answer to either A, B, or C. So for question A, we are asked to identify, point out one historical factors is cause, right, that contribute to the writing in this passage. So this writing is like, pointing out the social problem, mainly due to this social class, right? So for question 1A, I haven't checked your answer yet, but if you mention anything like, the rise of industrialization, that work, or like the rise of industrial capitalism, that also work, and formation of new social classes, right? So as long as you focus on the key argument Karl Marx had towards this social problem, either is capitalism that lead to the new social class, workers versus the middle class, right? And then as a result, we have social class conflict, right? And that will answer to question 1A, right? For question 1B, it's asking that identify one specific effect. Okay, so effect in this time period, 1750 to 1920, in the European economy, politics, or society that occurred as a result of the events mentioned in the passage, right? So we want what? We want the result, right? That occur as a result of the event. So it's the socialist movement lead to what kind of result, right? So the result is what? Definitely you can say socialist and communist parties, right? More specific example or argument evidence would be the formation of the communist Russia. Let me see. Yeah, you can use that because it's 1920, right? So communist Russia under Lenin's leadership, that's one way. Or you can say the decline of mercantilism, right? So if you talk about economy, because this time period, it's the first wave of industrialization. So after industrialization, okay, a new economic concept was introduced to by this rising gentry class, and also promoted by Adam Smith, right? It's called the laissez-faire, invisible hand, to promote this new economic system called capitalism. So capitalism was then adopted by Europeans to replace mercantilism. So you can say the fall of mercantilism and the rise of capitalism, that would be economy. And politics, again, socialist movement, right? And the formation of the Soviet Union, Russia, right? And then society-wise, you can talk about the rise of these rich capitalists, right? It may dabbling within this gray zone. Sometimes the society can overlap with economy. So when you talk about economy, it's mainly like, the effect of the political policy. Okay, the political policy affect the economy. So when we focus on talking about the policy, it fit into politics. When we talk about the effect upon the market, we talk about economy. When we talk about the reaction from the people, we're talking about society. All right, so that's the distinction here. So the very same policy right here, you focus on the policy itself, you will be politics, right? But reaction from the people, it's a society, right? So the policy is adopting capitalism that will shape the economy to a new form. It's called laissez-faire, right? Free market, encourage investment. And what happened in society? Social class, right? So we have a rising class called bourgeoisie, or like a capitalist. If you want an example, Carnegie, Rockefeller, right? Vanderbilt, the JP Morgan, all these are, typical example to support your argument that we have, monopolists rising up, and that's society. Okay. Then question C, we need to answer to what? Briefly explain how one newly emerged economic philosophy or development in society in this time period would undermine or oppose this argument. Okay, so this argument is all about eliminate private property, and that will lead to eliminate of social class, right? And that will lead to no more social conflicts. That will lead to a utopian world, right? Eventually march into this communist society, right? So we want to argue against, right? Oppose. So what can we say? So communist is basically what? The whole natural resource is controlled by the government, right? So it's the government's decision in what to produce, how much to produce, okay, and which industry gets what natural resource. Okay, so that's communism. So the opposite economic philosophy will be what? Laissez-faire, right? So Adam Smith's laissez-faire. So free market, everybody get the right to enter to this market, right? Or a development in society. Okay, so other than laissez-faire economics form, or you can talk about the rising of middle class, right? That's also that support the society, right? So middle class, or you can say the increase in living standard. That's a society, right? So increase in living standard thanks to the industrialization, right? So most products are now being mass produced. So market price drop, and average household, they get to afford more compared than pre-industrialization era, right? And so increase in living standard for middle class, right? Or like even the lowest class, right? They could afford more than before. What else? Okay, then we have a stock market. You can talk about that. That would be economic philosophy, right? So stock market being introduced to European society. And we have a new form of company called LLC. We did not cover that, but we will today, right? So basically this short answer question is, circling around the opposition to this gradual growing capitalist society in Europe, right? That lead to this new class conflicts between middle class and working class, right? So as long as you understand this key point, this big idea, you can answer to either A, B, or C, right? Okay, I will answer to you later on, Nina, right? So questions in regards of this short answer question SAQ? If not, we're gonna move on to capitalism, right? So we actually started from here, alternative to capitalism yesterday, right? And today we're gonna move back to introduce what is capitalism. So this is capitalism. Anybody recall what's the difference and similarity between among these three isms? Capitalism, socialism, communism. Anybody? We have similarity and differences. Anyone? Compare and contrast amongst these three isms. Oh, Jason, do you remember? They are all referred to economic system, right? Similarity and differences.
So capitalism refers to they support an open market. They want a free market. The government shouldn't interfere in the economy too much. Competition is encouraged between private companies. Because capitalists think competition will help grow the economy. Yeah. Communism and socialism are pretty similar. They both support having the workers who control the means of production, control the economy. And because the workers also are sort of like the government, by extension, that means the government should actively interfere with the economy to make sure the economy is doing well.
So it's government controlled economy, right?
Yeah. And companies, I think, are all government controlled, so no private companies, and therefore no competition.
Okay. So the similarity and differences, do they share something in common, these three isms?
Well, they're all economic ideologies.
Thank you. Yeah. Can I say you're wrong? Seemingly impossible comparison, but they actually share something in common though. Is it capitalism is there to secure the equality of opportunity, right? So it's a free market, right? So everybody get access to the market. It depends on how brave you are, right? If you're willing to take the risk, yeah, welcome to the market, right? With your effort, your devotion, your talent, your skill, and your luck, you can make a fortune. Okay, so market is open to everybody. So these three isms, they are first of all economic system, economic philosophy. Second of all, they all promote the idea of equality, just in different way. Okay, so capitalism secure the equality in opportunity. Socialism, equality in social class, right? So take away this private property and then and redistribute through government's plan, and then everybody will have, like, same possession, right? And since there's no private property, so no more borders are needed. So at this stage, it's kind of like a utopian world, right? All right. So social class is no longer exist. So equality in social class. All right. And then communism is what? Because now everybody possess the same thing, right? So you can be you live under this worry-free lifestyle, kind of, right? And then in that case, you can specialize what you are particularly good at to produce and contribute to this society, and then everybody in this society will enjoy the same share of the collective production in the end. That would be communism, right? But difference is communism, they don't want to give this right to utilize the nature resource to the people, but instead they believe the government could better utilize nature resource. So the slight difference between socialism and communism is socialism is property robbed from bourgeoisie, give it to government temporarily, but government must redistribute back to the society. But communism changed that step. It's like, no. Government knows better, okay? So should be government control the property, the resource, and decide how to utilize them, okay? So that's the difference between socialism and communism. But as long as, share the collective production, okay, socialism and communism are pretty much the same. And we talk about the pros and cons, right? Capitalism will incentivize people's investment and creativity, right? But at the cost of social disparity, right? And then socialism, pros, utopian world, right? Cons, it depends. Every step proposed by Marx could generate a question mark, because human psychology is difficult to predict, right? Would people rob off the bourgeoisie, they will really give the property back to the government? Question mark. Will the government redistribute the property equally? Question mark, right? And then communism, okay. Pros is what? Everybody's equal, right? No more social class for sure, okay? And everybody enjoy the same share from this collective production, right? So equality is definitely there, right? But at what cost? Lack of incentive, right? So we have this free riders phenomenon. So eventually you're gonna realize one thing, why I worked so hard and ended up enjoy the same share like people who don't work, okay? So that's the problem of communism. All right, so this three ism, all economic philosophy, all promote the concept of equality, okay? So each ism would like, argue that they are the best approach to secure democracy. So democracy, again, it's a debatable, controversial concept, right? So democracy is in the eyes of the beholder, right? So depends on how you argue about this definition of democracy. All right, so enough of a socialism. Now let's go back to capitalism. So capitalism is a new economic philosophy or system that promoted in Europe, right, big time, because the previous mercantilism didn't really work that well now, since Europe has this industrialization. If you look at the time period, it actually undergoes the two waves of industrialization, right? So industrialization with the productivity to such a mass amount, if it's still controlled by the guilds and the government, it will limit the innovation, right, and creation from the individual the firms, right? So there's no incentive once again. So this new economic theory called capitalism is introduced by Adam Smith, all right? So Adam Smith, you can view him as like the father of modern economics. And he promotes this theory of classic economic practice, right? So modern days, we have two dominant economic theory. One is Adam Smith's classic theory. The other is Keynesian theory. All right. So Adam Smith, he's focusing on this supply side economy, and then Keynes, all right, Keynes, he promote the demand side theory, all right. So if you take economic class, and then you will know what we're talking about, right? So basically, the market is composed by these two curves. One is called demand, one is called supply, right? So as long as the demand and supply intersect, and then we have market equilibrium, right? Well, since we're talking about econ, so give you a brief introduction of econ, all right? Right here. So this is a market, right? So whatever market you want, okay. So I'm looking at my computer. So I say this is a PC market, all right? So PC market. The vertical axis is called price, and the horizontal is the quantity supplied, all right? And the upward slope, it's called supply curve, and the downward slope is called demand curve, all right? It kind of makes sense. If you try to decipher these two curves, it makes sense. So as the price goes up, right, the quantity demanded is low. When the price goes down, the quantity demanded is high, right? So it's called law of demand. It's a rational consumer's reaction to the market price, right? So when the price goes up, it's like, I can live without it, or I will cut down my consumption. When the price drop, right, Double 11 sale, Black Friday sale, oh, stock up, right? So you don't need, like, 10 pairs of pants, but it's a deal, all right? So you buy more. So price goes down, quantity demanded goes up. And this curve is a supply curve, right? So you're looking at from the business point of view, right? So when the market price is high, you seize the opportunity to produce more, right? So you have a bigger total revenue. Market price is low, and then you try to produce less, so you can reduce the risk of ended up with a whole bunch of inventory, right? So when these two curves intersect with each other, this is called the market equilibrium price, right? So at this price level, okay, so at this price level, all right, quantity demanded intersect with demand, right, is this scale. And then quantity supplied is also this scale, right? So that's perfect. That means what? Demand clears supply. So there's no surplus, there's no shortage, okay? So this is a healthy market, right? So if we have somehow the supply for some reason, okay, shrink. Now we're talking about the entire supply curve, all right? Not quantity supplied. For some outside factor, supply curve shift to the left, all right? And demand curve will remain the same, right? So you see the new market price will be what? Will be this level, right? So they will be P1, price level 1. And this is a quantity supplied, right? Okay, so this will be Q1, right? So when the supply shift to the left, you see what happened? The market price goes up due to whatever happened that forced the supply curve to shrink, right? So it's not the market price determine the quantity supply anymore. It's something happened outside this market price. Could be what? The shrink, the decrease of labor force. Good example would be what? Black Death, right? Remember Black Death wiped out 50% of European population, right? 1/3, okay, 1/3 of the European population, right? So lead to labor shortage, right? So supply curve shift to the left, right? So less labor produce less outcome, right? So these shortage of labors lead to the supply curve shift to the left, right? So that will result in market price increase. So market price increase, you see, the price level will determine the quantity demand, right? So it's right here. That's new quantity demanded and supplied, right? But if you compare with the original quantity demanded, this is quantity demanded 0, right? Now here is quantity supplied. Let's say this is supply, right? So if the market price did not change, you will see demand is greater than supply, and this will be a shortage. That's a typical example of market failure, right? So according to Adam Smith, he argued that the mercantilism, once we have market failure, the government will kick in right away, right? And try to fix the problem. Okay, that's good, back them. But now we have this mass production, right? If you still want to want everything to be controlled by the government, you would kill out people's motivation to invest, to be creative, right? So Adam Smith says that don't worry, government can take a rest, right? You don't have to worry about this market failure, okay? Because consumers are rational. When the price is high, right, their demand, quantity demanded will be low, right? So eventually it will force the supplier to decrease the market price, right? And eventually there's an invisible hand will push this demand curve to the left, right? Because the price is now high, right? So the demand curve possibly will push to the left, right? So through this, shift of demand and supply curve, right? Back forwards, it eventually will come to a new equilibrium, okay? So this theory introduced by Adam Smith, it's called the invisible hand, all right? So there's an invisible hand that will actually regulate the market, and they will push the supply curve and demand curve based on the pre-assumption that consumers are rational. So consumer rational is like, now is not a good time to buy gold, so I don't buy. It is a good time to buy gold. I will then spend my money, okay, in this gold market, right? So government step aside, yield, right? Let the market play its own game, okay? And this concept, it's called laissez-faire, all right? So laissez-faire is like, government, please step aside, right? Let the market regulate itself, right? So he focused on this supply side, is like, the supply and demand eventually will come to new equilibrium, okay? And Keynes, right, Keynesian theory focus on the demand side. He said, if it's like, normal market failure, yes, the government don't have to worry about that because the invisible hand definitely will fix it. But big market failure like what? Like the Great Depression, right? In the 1930s, right? That is beyond the market's self, recovery, right? In that, at that time, government must regulate the market by incentivize the demand curve to the right, okay? So try to encourage people to consume. How? By spending money. No, the government spending money, so create job opportunity. Once people have income, they feel more secure to spend money, right? So that market will be active again, right? But that's for later on, the Great Depression. But now let's focus on Adam Smith, right? So Adam Smith proposed this new theory called invisible hand. So he has this book called The Wealth of Nations. So this book, The Wealth of Nations, overthrown the concept, the major belief back to the mercantilism era. Mercantilism, remember what that is? It's trade surplus, right? Why? Because it's under the belief that money, wealth is limited, right? So what is wealth back to the mercantilism era? Wealth equals to gold and silver, right? So, and there were only so much gold and silver, right, deposit in the world. So you cannot try to get your hand on as much gold and silver as possible. How? Export more, right? So that's mercantilism. But now with the industrialization, right, with the market revolution, everything, money is no longer limited. Money can be created, right? As long as you increase your production, you then can sell your production in the market for money, right? So Adam Smith believed the old theory that wealth is limited is wrong. Wealth is actually created. How? through production. Once you have the production, you trade it in the market, you can exchange for money, right? So in this case, you do not need to, promote this concept called mercantilism, trade surplus anymore, right? You want to focus on production, right? So that's his idea, his theory called the wealth of nation. So in order to realize this wealth of nation, right, to maximize your product, your productivity, in order to exchange for money, right, he promote the idea that mercantilism should be replaced by capitalism. So capitalism is a economic theory that encourage investment, because only when people are willing to invest, then you can expect the productivity to increase, right? And then once you have the productivity, you need to look for market, right? So what is market? Market is where you can find population, because the market is, when you are looking for consumers, right? So you probably will say, that's a true example though. Nike, I believe it's Nike, wanted to target Indian market because they believe with the second largest population in the world, and Indians sometimes they don't wear shoes, right? They use flip-flop, right? But if they need to exercise, or they have a sport game, they need sneakers. So just think about that. With the 1.2 billion people in India, if we can just occupy 1% of the market share, think about the total revenue we can generate, right? So the market sounds pretty ideal that time, but they failed. But that's a long story. But that example will illustrate what is market. Market is where you can find potential consumers. So potential consumers equals to what? Population, right? So a higher population state will be more ideal market for any corporation, right? So capitalism increase production, and next step, you're gonna find an ideal market, right? And once you target this market, you're gonna promote this concept called consumerism. What is consumerism? You enjoy now, you pay later. So yeah, with this advertisement, everything, you were like somehow motivate people to consume, right? But not everybody can afford it, right? So when you target a market, you want to study the potential consumers in this market, and ideal potential customers must qualify two requirements. One, willingness to consume. Two, able to consume, right? So willingness to consume is like, if you try to sell if you try to sell a shampoo to a monk, you won't make it, right? Because they don't need shampoo, right? So if you try to target monks for shampoo, even though they can afford it, I don't think they will buy it, right? So you are targeted on the wrong potential consumer, right? So that would be a bad example for willingness to consume, right? And ableness to consume is what? If you approach me and say, hey, Vic, would you like to buy a Bugatti? Sure. Okay. I love the car, right? But how much is that? It's a deal. All right. It's only 3 million. Thank you very much. I'm cool with my GMC. Okay. So in that case, I'm willing to consume, right? Of course, I want a Bugatti, right? But can I afford it? Maybe, but I may ended up in debts, right? Because I can, exercise this consumerism, you see? So I can enjoy now and pay later. How? By installment, obtain a loan, right, from the bank. So I will just pay like, down payment, maybe 10%, 20%, and I can enjoy this fancy car right now. But I'm dragging myself into the future debts. You see that? That's consumerism. So consumerism is like, encouraging consumers to spend the income you don't have yet, right? But you assume you will continue to have it, right? To have this, present enjoyment, right? That's consumerism. When the economy is good, this is okay. Because you know you have a secured income, right? You have your paycheck monthly or bi-weekly, right? You are secured, you know, okay, I can afford this much, you know, debts monthly, and then you will go with this consumerism. But what if the economy started to turn south, and all of a sudden you lose your job, or you ended up with pay cut, right? So you can no longer honor your debts. What happened? The bank will take back your Bugatti, okay? And then they will take your house, take whatever you have, okay, to honor your debts, right? So the consumerism sort of being responsible for the later Great Depression, right? Because people is like, you know, spending the money they not yet possess. And then as a result, when the Great Depression happened, pretty much, you know, the society found themselves in serious debts, right? So in America right now, if you can say, hey, you know what, I'm debt free. Oh, you're awesome. Okay. If you can claim you are debt free, you have no credit card, no payment that you owe, right? You have no school loan, right? You have no loans for whatever purchase you have. Everything is paid in cash. You're awesome, right? Okay. So this is the wealth of nations, okay, promoting the idea of capitalism. And capitalism will require two other concepts to pair with it in order to work. That would be market and consumerism, right? Because if you do not encourage consumers to consume more, right? And then you see that's the problem, right? If you have products, you have the market, but people cannot afford it, right? You once again ended up with a whole bunch of inventory, right? So Adam Smith, he said that it wasn't so much that he invented a free market theory, but rather than recognize the success of Europeans, right? And he articulated, this is his reasoning, his logic, right? He said, number one, when there's an increased money supply due to the Columbian exchange, right? So gold and silver influx into Europe, right? So people had more money and spend it, okay? That's step one. And then when people spend money into the market, it actually increased the available money because we have banks being established, right? And venture capitalists. Do you know what is a venture capitalist? Venture capitalists? They, you can say they're sort of like, you know, a speculator that predict the future market, all right? So if they believe that the market of, what is a good market now? The market of AI, right? So robots, right? Robots, you can purchase robots to do the house chores for you, right? So you no longer need to do it yourself, or you no longer need to hire helps, right? So one-time investment of purchasing this robot, and then you can cut down this budget for, you know, monthly payment to your helpers, right? So that probably could be a good market, right? So you predict, oh, this robot AI market has potential, right? So you will start to invest in this industry. So venture capitalists, right? So you can invest in a new industry, or like, you know, growing industry, or you can invest in financial industry, right? Use your money to generate more money. For example, stock market, right? And bonds, right? All this. You can buy like oil, right? Or you can buy gold, right? So all this is like you predict whatever market you have faith in, right? And you invest now, and then you can expect, you know, profit in return. That's venture capitalists, right? So now we have banks and venture capitalists. Sometimes they will loan out their money to firms and individuals, right? And one way is to loan out, the other way is, no, no, I don't want to lend you money. I want you a piece of pie of your company. I want to be a shareholder. That's another way to invest, right? So either way, now people have more money to spend, right? They either consume or they invest, right? So that will lead to more available money, because as soon as the money goes through the bank, we have money multiplier, okay, multipliers, right? And that's another economic theory. So a reduction of this regulation and taxation, right, due to an increase in private property rights, right? So government gradually, okay, hands off, right? So reduction of this regulation and taxation, right? You want to lower the tax so you can offer even more stronger incentive to this capitalists, right, to invest. In this case, you have more private property, right? And that would further activate the market. So basically, that's what Adam Smith learned from this Columbian exchange, right? And he see the pattern in Europe. And that's why he come up with this theory called the wealth of nations, okay? And promote the concept of capitalism, all right? So shifted from mercantilism, of course, right? So this mercantilism system is when the government and guilds, they control pretty much everything, right? Workers' wage, price, and quality, and tariff and taxes, everything. So kept price very high, and innovation was kept low, right? So kept price high. Why? When they kept the price high, they can what? Have a higher pay for the workers, right? So that will further encourage the workers to spend more, right? So, but either way, all these sectors, the whole market, it's controlled by the government and the guilds, right? So the government is the state, right? So state and guilds control limited industries, right? And their price and the lack of money, right? Because it's controlled economy. So there's no money multiplier, okay? Or there's a financial capital, right? Because all the money is controlled by the government, right? And bank, they did not really thrive that time, okay? Because money is controlled by the government, unlike under capitalism. Venture capitalists and then business, they will go through bank to multiply their capital, right? So there was also a few stable banks able to give loans, right? Very limited. There's one though in Italy, the Medici family. Okay, that's the one that's considered as like a pretty large scale. But other than that, no, they're small banks, right? So when bank is out of this picture in the whole market, you probably cannot expect market development again. Because once again, through bank, there is money multiply effect. All right. So, okay, I'll give you an example. All right. If I deposit money to the bank, right? So I deposit, let's say I deposit $10, right? So I don't have the cash, the physical money with me anymore, but I do believe I have $10 because it's in my bank account, right? So when the money goes to the bank, right, it's considered as the debts of the bank, right? Because the bank, it owe me $10, right? And this is what? This is deposit, no, on demand, right? Demand deposit. So this is what we call demand deposit. Meaning what? This is my money. I'm just depositing that at the bank, right? And my money is available upon demand. So I can always withdraw my money from my account as long as I have sufficient balance, right? So when I deposit $10 to the bank, I believe I have $10, right? So this is my money, right? And the $10 goes to the bank is the bank's debts, right? So no way the bank will okay to lose money, right? So the bank will then loan out this $10, right? So loan out this $10 to, let's say, John, right? So loan the money to John, right? So the bank then granted the loan of $10 to John, right? So John now believe that he has then $10, right? Yeah, he does. Physical money right here in his pocket, right? And John was like, I don't need this $10 yet. I'm planning to use the $10 for my vacation, but my vacation is not, not for another month, right? So John would go ahead and deposit his money into another bank, right? So here we have bank B. This is bank A, right? So as soon as John deposits money into his own bank, he believes he still has $10, right? Just the $10 is now at the bank right here, and the bank will in turn perhaps loan to another people, right? Dave, right, and Daniel. Okay, you name it. So 5, right? All right. So in this case, just through this 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 transactions, let's see. If you ask me, I believe I have $10, right? If you ask John, John believe he has $10, right? It's in bank B. And if you ask David and Daniel, they believe they also have $5 each, right? Where in their pockets, right? So now amongst this 1, 2, 3, 4 people, how many dollars we own altogether? 30. Is that we have $30 altogether, but originally it's only $10. I hope you're following the logic, right? So this is my very original $10 I deposit in the bank, right? And bank loan to John, and John believe he does own $10, right? And then deposit to bank B, and bank B loan to Daniel and David, $5 each. So amongst our 4, we can play poker now, okay? We together believe we own $30. So from $10, now it's 30. This is called money creation through money multiplier effect. And you say, I know the logic. $10 is physically owned by me, right? But to John is debts. But we don't talk about debts because we're talking about e-money now, right? So you will have $30 circulating in the market. Because I can spend $10, no problem. Use credit card, use my check, right? And John can spend $10, no problem, because he has the deposit at the bank B, right? And Daniel and David, no problem. They have the physical money. They can spend it. So we all have the right to spend our money, just in different way, physical money or e-money, you see? So that's money creation, right? So if the bank is out of the picture in the whole market transaction, we do not have the money multiplier effect. So you will have less, transaction in the market. You see that? So that would limit the total GDP, okay? All right, so that's just a basic introduction to this, the importance of bank in this economic system, right? So mercantilism, that era, banks, they're very limited, right? And that what kind of limited the business growth, right? But with Adam Smith, laissez-faire capitalism, right? And that would lead to this, establishment of banks everywhere, right? So we have a Hong Kong, Shanghai bank, right? And then we have a Bank of London, right? They become the major international bank and finance all these major firms, right? So banks plays very important role under capitalism economic system, right? So while this most governments focus on controlling wealth through taxation, right? State control and guilt, Europeans investors. So these investors said, no, we have a new way to create more fortune. And businessmen, they began to think otherwise, all right? And okay, so the old problem and new ideas, right? So old problem of mercantilism, I think you get the idea, right? Without the bank in the picture, wealth is really, limited, like the monarchs claim, right? So 2 factors allow for the upcoming explosion of money supply. How? You're gonna reduce, government and guilds control, right? And you will allow the free market, right? So this enable cheaper price and increase innovation, right? Because government tend to set the market price higher. So the firms can have a bigger chunk of profit, right? And then the firm in terms can pay their workers better, right? So what? So the workers can demand later, right? So the government that time, the monarchs, they believe this is a good cycle, okay? It's a positive cycle. And then step 2 is an increase in money supply for investment, right? So when the money supply increase, right, and you see the market activity will increase as well, right? So initially you see the government and guilds kept the price high control industry in the attempt for both enrich the mother country, also keep income high for workers, right? So happy workers, better production. But they did not see this potential threat is higher price due to this costs and controls result in less people buying goods, right? Yeah, you have, happier workers, but how about those average common households, right? They will be less willing to consume, right? And there was only one single option business for consumer to buy from. There's no variety because there's no incentive for innovation, right? So for innovation to occur, you need incentive, right? So business would need lower price, meaning what? Lower wage, right? So your cost of production would be ideal. And the ability to hire motivated and natural good workers, right? So when the business get the freedom to hire their own laborers, right, at the wage they believe is reasonable, and they can even scream which laborers is more skilled, more productive, right? So without all the skills regulation, then the firms would be more than willing to invest, right? But if you're under this mercantilism system, you have no freedom in hiring your workers. It's guilds telling you whom to hire, okay, how much you're supposed to pay, right? It doesn't matter it's a skilled labor or not, right? So in that case, I probably wouldn't invest in this market either, right? So that's the old problem, a new idea, right? And Smith's free market theory, he argued that wealth is created. It's not limited, right? So Smith, he believed that this create through cheap labor. Well, yes, workers, sorry, okay, you get lower pay, but which will lower the market price, right? So that will enable the firms to sell more, right? Because law of demand, right? And then that means what? It will create more jobs, right? So that will reduce the unemployment rate. That's good. So create more jobs. So what? Then the GDP will increase. Once the GDP increase, right, the whole nation benefit. Right. So that's what Smith believed. And of course, everything comes with an opportunity cost, right? So in this case, what Smith his proposal is the opportunity cost will be the lower wage for laborers, right? That's why capitalism, according to Karl Marx, right, it's evil. So he enriched the bourgeoisie, right, step by step, and deprive the happiness from laborers, right? But to the country as a whole, it's a win-win situation, right? So the country as a whole, the GDP increase, right? And government's taxation revenue increase as well, right? But everything comes with opportunity cost. That's a very solid principle. Do you know what is opportunity cost? You can use that term in your essay though. When you argue that pros and cons, you can say everything comes with the opportunity cost. Jace, do you know what is opportunity cost?
Can you repeat that question?
What is opportunity cost?
Is it like consequences that come with the risk you take?
The what?
The
I'm sorry?
consequences that come with like the risk you take?
Not necessarily the consequences though. Okay, but you're getting there. Opportunity cost. It's an economic theory, all right? It indicates what? Opportunity cost is we have options, right? So we are making choice on a daily basis, right? Like when you wake up and you're ready to have your first meal, do I want hamburgers? Do I want pizza? That's too big for breakfast anyway. But do I want hamburgers or do I want pizza? Because you only have so much appetite. If you choose hamburger, then you give up pizza, right? So in this case, pizza is your opportunity cost. All right. So, or like in the your allowance, monthly allowance, right? So towards the end of month, we're getting there, right? So you find yourself only left with so much money, right? And you still want to buy, okay, a new phone. But if you buy this new phone, you won't be able to provide yourself with decent meal for the rest of 3 days in this month, right? So it's your choice though. You use the money for decent meal, or you use the money to buy a new phone and just have an instant noodle for the rest of 3 days in this month. It's up to you. So if you choose the phone, and then your opportunity cost would be the decent meal you could have, right? So opportunity cost is when consumers or individual are facing options. We have so many options. My example only give you 2. You could have 3, right? You can use the money to buy a new phone or a decent meals, or you can use the money to deposit in your saving account, and you will have interest in return, right? So you have options, right? So you have so many options. Whatever option you choose, in comparison to the next best option, only the next best, right? So the next best option that you give up, that one is your opportunity cost. All right. So for example, Lucas, for you to attend today's class, you're gonna consume 3 hours of your lifetime, right?
Yeah.
If you look at this, oh my God, my 3 hours is gone. So in order for you to attend this class, what's your opportunity cost?
Other stuff I can do
Uh-huh.
during the 3 hours.
Right. So your next best option. So if we somehow cancel the class today, so what would you do then for this 3 hours?
Sleep.
Sleep,
Uh,
watch a movie, eat.
Yeah.
Eat? So I'm sorry, I occupy 3 hours from you. Okay? So you cannot eat, but please do have a decent meal later, right? See, that's your opportunity cost. You see? So everything comes with opportunity cost. That makes sense. So think about that. In order for you to attend today's class, what's your opportunity cost? What do you have to give up? Enable yourself to be here today. So next best option would be your opportunity cost. You cannot add up all the options, all right? So if you attend to this class, the 3 hours you can utilize to eat, to study, to sleep, to watch a movie, to party. If you add everything together, this class is not worth it, right? Your opportunity cost is way too much. So only the very next best option would be your opportunity cost, right? So according to Smith, right? Yeah, the opportunity cost is laborers, their wage decrease. Is that right? But the option he chose actually is much better, according to Smith, right? Because it can benefit the country as a whole, right? Because it can create more jobs, right? So capitalists, the government, and the guild did not need to control price, right? But it's the consumers or the market, right, would determine the best price and goods alone, right? That's again based on the pre-assumption that consumers are rational. We have irrational consumers, right? When the market price is high, say, I don't care, give me a dozen. Right? We do have that. So you're gonna carry out this theory based on the pre-assumption consumers are rational. All right. And so according to him, competitive process was the best way to ensure the lowest price. Okay, so now we have lowest price, right? Best goods, right? If your quality is not good, now consumers, they have choice why they choose your product, right? Because it's a competitive market now, right? And meet the needs of society. So free market, competitive market is the best market structure for the whole society, okay? So the mercantilism, it can view that as a monopolized market, and capitalism is competitive market, and competition will push all these players in this game to to develop the potential to really devote themselves into the game, right? And who benefit the consumers, right? And the market, right? So under this mercantile system, guilds were the ones to monitor quality and set price, right? So they kind of, monopoly market, right? But Smith actually pointed out that simply having competitors would ensure both. So you can view this two system, okay, accordingly to the market structure. So mercantile system is monopoly, okay, monopoly market. And then capitalism is competition market, right? Okay, so that's the theory of capitalism, right? So this capitalism can be concluded in this term called the invisible hand, right? So invisible hand. So what is invisible hand? Through the practice of laissez-faire, so government guilds, you all step aside. Okay, have the major two players, consumers, producers, okay, to regulate the market on their own. And don't worry too much about the market failure. It's only temporary because this invisible hand will push this demand and supply back to equilibrium again. All right, so this capitalism. So in theory, it sounds pretty ideal, right? And Adam Smith also admits that there is opportunity cost, right? It's the lower wage to the laborers, right? But to him, he believed this is the opportunity cost that totally worth the practice of capitalism. But it's not in the eyes of Karl Marx, right? So that's why we have this alternative to capitalism. We already went through that yesterday, right? So we can move on to today's topic is the Industrial Revolution. So we actually have two waves, right? The second, so this is the first, this is the second. So since we have two waves of industrialization, so that's possible essay question, right? So the possible essay question would be what? Would be this comparison and contrast. Since we have two industrialization, similarity, differences. Just like when we time travel back to the age of exploration, right? Or prior to that, the tapestry of the world, right? So we have this three major trade routes, right? So in this case, things we have three possible comparison contrast question, you see? So industrialization, let's compare, okay, wave one, when? 1740 to 1840. Okay, 1740 to 1840. That's wave one. Wave two, 1780-ish, right? 1870 to 1914, right? Stop in the year of 1914 because that was the very same year World War I took place, right? Okay, so that's the timeline difference. Now let's talk about this revolution, right? So it's a change, right? It's a creation. That's why we call it revolution. So what did they create respectively? First wave, all right? Wave one, we focus on steam engine, right? So wave one is all about this steam engine that enable the large scale of factories to establish themselves and start to adopt this, mass production. And then that lead to the rise of bourgeoisie's middle class in Europe, right? And second wave of industrial revolution focus on three innovation. First one is this steam engine was considered as like a very powerful source of energy to power a huge machine as big as train, boat, right? And in second wave, Americans discover an even more powerful source for energy. That would be electricity, right? So using electricity, not only it can power excuse me, you can power factory. You can also power what? You can power a airplane if you want to. I forgot which airline carrier, not airline, which aircraft producer, either it's Boeing or Airbus. They try to adopt this new energy to power their plane by using this rechargeable battery, right? So electricity could power a machine like airplane, boats, right? Not boats, cars, right? And train, everything. So we rely heavily upon electricity today, right? So imagine like one day without electricity. Your phone cannot be charged, right? So you kind of lose the connection with the rest of the world, right? So we really rely on electricity, but electricity became an issue now, right? Because there are energy crisis, right? So that's why people started to look for the alternative source of energy. Hopper, I believe, try to study on this. Automobile rely on neither gasoline nor electricity, but by water. If that's possible, that's another revolution though. Okay. So second wave, electricity. Also, we mentioned three, right? So electricity and chemical products, chemical industry, especially two invention though. First is soap. So soap somehow improve personal hygiene, right? And kind of extend this life expectancy, right? And the other chemical innovation is DDT. DDT is like pest control that can kill this bad pests that eat out the crops, right? So increase the production, the harvest, right? And third is what? One is electricity. Oh, two is chemistry, right? Third is oil. So oil become a new form of energy source as well. So at first it was kerosene to power the light, right? Lamp. And later on, after the invention of light bulb, right? So household started to adopt this and a new technology to light at night. So kerosene gradually lose its value in the market, but Rockefeller managed to discover another valuable resource out of this oil, and that's gasoline. Okay, so gasoline, okay, it's like the major source of energy to power most vehicles, right? So that's the second difference, right? Timeline different, and this revolution, okay, the new invention also different, right? And similar, and also third difference is what? Third difference is first wave was led by Britain. Second wave led by America and Germany, right? That's the third difference, right? Do they have any similarities? Oh yeah. Each industrial revolution improved Europeans' role in the world, right? So the first wave witnessed the rising up of Britain. Second wave, Germany, along with America, right? So through this two waves of industrial revolution, Europe, they really rise up from period one. They are so irrelevant, right? Middle age, feudalism, society, right? Superstitious. And period two, they started to catch up through this age of exploration, right? And period three, they are now surpassing the previous world power, China, India, Islam, right? So Islam had its golden age, remember? Umayyad, right? Caliphate and Abbasid. And later on, land-based empire, Ottoman, right? Safavid, Mughal. But industrialization did not really benefit the Islamic empire for several reasons. We'll talk about it, okay? But this industrialization really help Europe to rise up and surpass the previous dominant power in the world, including China, the Middle Kingdom, India, that would be Mughal Empire. So let's just say Islamic Empire, okay, in the Minor Asia, Middle Asia, and South Asia, right? And so that's the similarity. So both waves of industrialization witnessed the rising up of European states. Okay, enough of the big picture and the comparison. Let's see. British. Wave one we know is led by Britain, right? So before this industrial revolution, China and India definitely had for centuries dominated manufacturing. Okay, not just agriculture though, but manufacturing. Why? Because prior to the industrialization, manufacture already exists. Only thing different was the manufacturing industry back then, prior to industrialization, was rely on human labor. You may have like a simple machine like that, but the machine is still operated manually, right? And then industrialization changed that. The machine would be operated by steam engine and later by electricity. You see the difference now, right? So prior to industrialization, even though we have some kind of machine, right, already, but it still demands large number of human laborers. In that case, whichever country has higher population, they have the potential to produce even more, right? That explains why China, India dominate the world's manufacturing industry, right? And then things were about to change. 18th century, that any other region would begin to challenge them, starting with in the Great Britain. All right. So Britain or Europe, okay. Europeans, they long been producing woolen, right, textile with this what we call putting out system, because their labor was not, labor market was not as big as China and India. So they cannot be creative, right? So how they manage to increase their productivity, since it's now human labor dominated labor force, right? So they did. So how? Easy. This limited workers in this manufacturing industry, right? Because other population, they would be working in the agriculture industry, right? So if you want to boom up your manufacturing business, you're gonna recruit more people into this labor force for industry, right? For manufacturing industry. In this case, they will approach, remember the guilds, right? So the guilds would organize farm families, because farm families, they did not work year round, right? All right. So it did not work year round. That means what? This farm family, they would have like off season where they don't have to plan on the field, right? And they're free. They have nothing else to do. So the guild would then organize this farm family to participate in manufacturing industry. So the guild would then deliver all this wool, right, to the farm family, and you use your free time to weave the wool into cloth, right? And you will be paid based on the quantity you produced, right? So in this case, the manufacturing industry managed to increase their production to some level, not much, but some level, right? And then Britain and other Europe, they started to to adopt this machinalization, right? And then here, 1760, that's the initial step of this first wave of industrialization, right? So Britain, they started to invent machines like this spinny jenny, water frame. Okay, so water frame was like the updated source of energy that time. So using you build a wheel, water wheel, alongside the waterway. So the water current would mobilize this wheel, and then as a result, the wheel will then power this machine and then enable the machine to function, right? So that's water frame as like, a new form of source of energy. But it was not convenient, because if you rely on this water frame as the, the source of energy, your factory must be built next to the waterway. And water doesn't flow the direction you want, right? You want to build your factory in the urban area, right? Because that's where population dense is, located. So you have a, bigger labor force. But if water does not go through the city, and you're gonna establish your factory in some remote location, and you may have problems recruiting your laborers, all right? Okay, so that's British textile. They started to adopt, machine to help, not to replace labor, but to help increasing the productivity. But later on, James Watts, right? He did not invent the steam engine, but instead he improved it, right? So he improved this steam engine, okay, to a scale that it can actually be used to power big machines. So when the machine comes to such a scale, they can actually replace pretty good number of human laborers, though, right? So in this case, Britain started to devoting their effort into industrialization, try to figure out what we can utilize this steam engine to boom up our productivity, all right? And then why Britain have this privilege in leading the first wave of industrialization? Well, there are so many reasons, right? Number one, it has something to do with the British, culture of invention. All right, like Britain, remember, amongst those European states, Britain and Netherlands, they honor this democracy spirit, right? Mainly because in Britain, they have this new rising gentry class demanding a lower house, right? The lower house called House of Commons. So people have voice in the parliament, right? And Netherlands, it was a state that dominated by wealthy merchants, right? So since the state is dominated by wealthy merchants, right? So their agenda is more close to this capitalism style, right? So of course they have more democracy. And then under this kind of more democratic regime type, right, with people's voice being heard in the government, and then people feel more secured to devote their free time, their efforts into what? Invention and creation, right? So that explains why Britain showcased this parliamentary government that includes the urban gentry, everything that lead to Britain's culture of democracy, and that would lead to the culture of invention. Make sense? So it allow people and labor to move freely, you see, because there's no guilt or government to regulate everything, right? And working or investing on whatever they are good at, right? So this is what we call specialization. Okay, so laborers, they get to move freely, and they can eventually find the ideal job that they are very good at, right? And in that case, specialization is there, and specialization improves productivity as well, right? So government began to provide monetary incentive as well, right? So encourage people to be creative, to invent, right? So we have like a Nobel Prize being established, right? Also, we have this legally enforced patents, right? So it's your invention. So it's your right how you're gonna use it, right? So that's the patent. So patent protect your invention not to be stolen by others, right? So if others want to produce whatever products that based on your idea, they're gonna pay you for your patent, all right? If they don't, they cannot use it, all right? And then what else? This culture of invention in Britain was like, showcased in this Crystal Palace exhibition in 1851. Okay, that's a portrait painting. Indicates how modernized, all right, and industrialized Britain was back to the 19th century, right? So the exhibition hall itself was a a breathtaking invention already. The whole exhibition was built with glass, right? So that's why it's called Crystal Palace, right? So the building was constructed with glass, right? And the exhibition includes the innovation creation from around the world, but mainly is from British creation invention, right? So people all around the world, mainly Europe, right? They travel to Britain to witness the historical moment, right? So how did people get to travel all the way from East Europe to Britain? You have to cross this English Channel, right? How? Easy. Train and steamboat, right? That's another invention introduced by Britain, right? So Britain already secured their dominate status of this leading industrialized state in Europe at that time, all right? And Europe later on would follow, okay? Like, France followed, Germany followed, okay? But not so much in the Eastern Europe though, right? And then the other great invention in this era, it's the railroad, okay? The railroad played very, very significant role in this first wave of industrialization. Also later will be responsible for this establishment of imperialism, right? So railroad, since steam engine could power factories, right? Could power machines in giant size and enable the factories to expand their scale, right? And increase their productivity. So the same source of power, steam engine, was then adopted to power train, all right? So train, this railroad, why this railroad is so important? First of all, it's a means of transportation, right? And it's much, much faster and more like, effective, right? Efficient. Why? First of all, train can carry more goods, right? And it can travel in a faster speed, right? So definitely it's gonna boom up the market development, right? That's one. Second, since the train can carry goods, that's cargo train, right? So as long as it can carry goods, it can also be designed to carry what? Passengers, right? So this train enable the British society to travel freely within their own land, their country. And that would boom up this national identity, recognition of the greatness of their mother country, right? So it's like, oh my God, okay, I did not know our country is so great, so significant. Look at that. There's a factory, there's a steamboat, right? So this trend helped this national identity to form. And that will lead to what we call later nationalism. Nationalism, all right? And then the steamboat, again, enable this merchant boats, right? To carry not even more, but this boat now can go both way. Before the steam engine, what is the energy? I mean, not energy, the source of the power to operate the boat? Manual, right? So the merchant boat that time could only go downstream, okay, on a river, because you have the help from the water current, right, to carry down the boat downstream. But when you arrive your destination, you want to go back home, good luck. It's very difficult. You want to go upstream, okay, it's gonna consume so much strength, right? But now with the help of steam engine, right, so steamboat was invented. So with the power from steam engine, the boat can go upstream now. Amazing. So all this transportation was advanced, right? And this railroad later on would also be responsible, okay, for what? For mobilization of army troops. Why? If it engage in war conflicts, right? Before, your army would be mobilized by marching, right, on foot. Now you can take advantage of railroad, right? So faster, okay? So that's the significance of railroad. Okay. Also, this railroad change European society. Why? Now we have trend, right? Not just to transport goods, but also transport passengers, right? So if there's a train to carry passengers, you gonna tell the passengers the train schedule. Otherwise, how do you know when to go to the train station, right? So this scheduling, this timetable, change how European society to live from day to day. So back to the agriculture society, people didn't really care about time, right? So they started a new day as soon as the sun rises, right? Time to have breakfast and then time to work, right? And they work till the sun sets, right? And go home, right? And enjoy your family time. So nobody really care about time in the agriculture society. But now it's an industrialized society, right? So it gonna set what? Standardized time, right? So workers would know what time they are supposed to be at their job, right? Passengers would know what time they should arrive at their train station, right? So this standardized time became a new form of lifestyle in Europe, all right? So we're all still using this standardized time, right? Like we meet now we meet at what? What time's our class? 7:30, right? Eastern Standard Time. So our class starts at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time in the evening, right? So we have a standardized time. So you will know when to expect, right? The meeting room to be available, right? What time you need to attend the class. So if we don't have the standardized time, and then we say, okay, thank you for coming today. We'll meet tomorrow. And you say when the sun rises up to like a 45-degree angle to your left, that's the time we meet. That's so complicated, right? So standardized time actually make the European society into this more effective and productive, more systematic lifestyle, all right? Also, this railroad, incredibly efficient, right? But also require a large amount of labor and capital. Capital refers to money, investment, right? To lay. Okay, so think about the steel. How many tons of steel you require to establish the railroad, right? So it will require a complex and stable banking system, right? And that's why we have Bank of England being established. Provide a massive advantage of British railroads, right? So Bank of England still exists as of today, and that kind of established London as the financial capital of the world. Still applies today, right? So the financial sector, how the market will go, okay, in the future, it's kind of depends on how the financial market in London developed. Okay, so it's just kind of like when you talk about fashion, you talk about Paris, right? So Paris will set the new trend of a fashion for the next season. So London would determine how the financial market will go. Okay, because it's still being considered as the capital of finance in the world, right? Okay. So Bank of England provide this advantage for British railroads, right? And Britain, later Germany, right? They would have more track than the rest of Europe, okay? Not so much in France, not so much in Italy, not so much in Ottoman, okay? Let's see, do we have evidence to support that argument? Yes, we do. This railroad per 100,000 square kilometers, right? So 1840, it looks like Great Britain, right? Blue bar. Compare between 1840 and 1900, it's 60 years. You see how many more railroads being laid by Britain. And the second one is the green one, right? So it's Germany. And then it's what? It's France, right? Russia, not so much. Russia has a Siberian Railroad. One, okay. And then look at this one. This is how railroad expansion in Britain look like. 1848 compare 1854. It's only 9 years. You see that from nearly just like, you know, north to south, right? To a like a network, like a spider nets, right? That's how developed Britain was during this first wave of industrialization, right? So Europeans first wave of industrialization definitely led by Britain. So that comes to the question is why? Why particularly is Britain? Why? Why not Germany? Why not Italy? Italy used to be very wealthy, right? Because they have an advantage to dominate this Silk Road trade because they're right in the middle of Mediterranean Sea, right? So think about that. Why? Why Britain in particular? Anybody? Anyone? Why particularly Britain, not any other European states? Yes, Jason?
Well, I think it's firstly it's because Britain was relatively isolated compared to the rest of Europe. And
that's true.
then there's also they also had a sort of like a golden age under Queen Elizabeth I, who basically encouraged exploration, and then Britain ended up getting a lot of colonies. Yeah, and then at this time, transatlantic trade. Well, there was transatlantic trade, but it wasn't very convenient. So I think that's sort of why it happened. And then, yeah, I think that's maybe why.
Of course, you're right. But if you want to argue why particularly Britain, right? Because your argument, you talk about isolated. I don't understand why isolated would help this improvement in industrialization. Okay, but isolated is correct. Okay, it's a fact. And you talk about this transatlantic trade, right? It's not unique because other European states also practice transatlantic trade, right? Okay, and then you talk about what Queen Elizabeth I, right? Encourage exploration, colonization, yes, but it's not unique either because we have other European states also participate in this age of exploration, right? So you can use your arguments earlier as your contextualization, to lay the path to introduce your thesis statement. So if you want to argue why in particular is Britain to lead this first wave of industrialization instead of other European states, right? You're gonna think about something that Britain has, okay, and the other European states do not, right? So number one is when we kept emphasizing the first wave of industrialization focus on steam engine, right? Steam engine. So steam engine, this power, this energy is based on the burning of coal, right? So you need the coal mine to support your steam engine, right? If you have a large quantity of coal deposit, then you already have the advantage, right? You win in the initial step, right? And Britain, yes, had very abundant deposit of coal, right? France, on the other hand, not really, okay? And the Netherlands, not really, right? Germany, later on, okay? But Germany, in this era, the early step of industrialization, Germany was not even unified. It was losing city-states, remember? It's not until Otto von Bismarck organized this unification of Germany, right? In 1871. Look, so prior to 1871, Germany was a losing city-state within so-called Holy Roman Empire, right? So Britain had the privilege in this coal mine, coal deposit. Number two, timing was perfect for Britain, right? Because Germany later would grow to power, but that was 1871 already, and Britain already finished the first wave of industrialization. You see, okay, and also Britain adopt this concept of laissez-faire, free market, invisible hand, right? Why? Because Britain possess more democracy spirit and historical foundation than other European states. Is that the point right here? So what? Democracy enable the entrepreneurs to invest more, because whatever you invest will be yours, right? Because you have democracy, right? So it's a combination of everything. It's a combination of everything, including, okay, their blessing with the abundance of coal mine, and then their long democratic political culture history, and the timing, right? Because when the time Britain started to rise up to adopt this industrialization, the European continent was under this, religious control, right? And you're right, Jason, in that case. Britain also enjoyed the benefit of being isolated from the rest of the Europe, right? So the continent, because they share borders, right? So constant conflicts, but Britain was protected by this English Channel, right? And then they did not have to get involved with any European chaos, right? And that's their privilege. And the timing is also important, right? So Europeans, there's no German Empire established yet, and the previous empire that the sun never span, right, started to show signs of weakness, right? And then also Ottoman Empire, okay, had to deal with their internal conflicts, with the people in the Balkans, right, the Slav, right? So when Europeans, they each had their own problem to deal with, Britain was focusing on industrialization. Is that right? So it's a package of timing, geographic privilege, and the long existing democratic political culture that enable Britain to lead the first wave of industrialization. That makes sense? Okay. But on the other hand, the continent, not so much though. Industrialization on the continent was far slower, slow by government, less friendly to the urban gentry, is it? Unlike Britain, history of democracy, right? So a lack of a representative assembly, right? As well as many conflicts altogether. Also the multiple revolution and wars, right? First French Revolution, right? So when French was have this chaos, this revolution, and Britain was busy industrializing its industry, you see? So that everything together is the whole package, timing especially, right? So the Western Europe, the continent, chaos, right? And how about Eastern? Eastern is even worse, right? They still focus on agriculture practice, right? So in Eastern Europe, we have this serfdom, so peasant slavery, right? Not less not necessarily slavery, right? It's kind of forced labor. Was still the dominant economic force, right? So, remaining even in Russia until Alexander II, he actually emancipated the serf, right? So he realized one thing: if you want to learn from England to promote the economic development, right? So you're gonna encourage people to work harder. How? You're gonna end this serfdom, because serfdom, these peasants, they will not try to work hard if they don't have to, right? And also, on the other hand, serfdom, you may limit these peasants from really contribute what they're good at, right? So free all these peasant slaves, right? can encourage the peasants to seek for other career, perhaps work at the factory, right? So that would help the development of industrialization in Russia, right? And then areas like France, Eastern Europe, right? They don't have this high quantity iron and coal. Oh, I forgot to mention iron. So coal deposit to power steam engine, right? Steam engine in terms power, boat, railroad, and machines, right? So for the railroad, you need iron, right? Iron is the raw material for steel, right? So in that case, again, England was blessed. Not only they have plenty of coal, they also have a high value in this iron deposit, right? So France and Eastern Europe also lack the advanced and consistent banking system, right? And we just explained it, you know, what would happen if bank is out of the picture of this whole market, then no money multiplier thing. So that would be another privilege that Britain has. This is actually a essay prompt. I think it's from 18 or 19, 2018 or 2019. I can't recall, but it's there. Okay. So how about Germany and France? So Germany and France, like Britain, but later, okay. After the unification of Germany, okay, Prussia as the dominating government, right, started to promote the idea of industrialization as well, okay. So Germany, like Britain, had a ready source of coal and iron. Okay, so that one thing checked, right, one requirement met. And then to launch itself into this industrial revolutions. That explains why the second wave was led by Germany and America, all right? So Germany was ready, okay, to challenge Britain, all right? And Germany also has a already established banking system, right? So the biggest advantage was the sovereign in 1834. What is that? That was in Germany, right? It's a free trade union in the German area among all German states, right? So prior to the German unification, this German states, they already formed this sovereign, okay? So similar to modern days EU, European Union, all right? So they have free trade union already, is it? So before Germans union, they already have this system, right? And promote the free trade and remove the tariff, right? So that lay the foundation of this banking system for Germany later on. So that would allow German states to trade long, right? And later industrialize freely with each other, right? What's in if you want an example right here, 1860 once again, okay, prior to the unification, we have Anglo-French free trade agreement that enable France to boom up their economic development. As long as we have free trade, you can expect the two players, most likely than not, will both benefit from this free trade, because trade requires specialization first. So when you specialize, you actually become more productive, right? Because you're doing something that you're really good at, right? And in that case, definitely will increase the productivity, all right? So all this, I know, foundation lay in the past, right? Enable both Britain and Germany to rise up in Europe, right? And that also shaped this nationalism identity, all right? And later will be responsible for World War I. So when we talk about World War I, the factors, we can use this acronym like MANIA. So MANIA one, this militarism is a result of industrialization, and nationalism is the result of industrialization, right? So here we know why England, okay, or Britain was able to lead the first wave of industrialization. So they have the whole package enable England, okay, to realize this industrialization, right? So that would be a possible essay as a topic though. So this was a long essay topic, and so possibly could be DBQ, okay? Because College Board tend to recycle these big ideas into essay part, all right? So that's the first wave, and of course we have second wave, right? Second wave, spoiler alert, dominated by Germany and America, right? So before we dig deeper into second wave, let's take a break, right? So let's come back in 10 and then we'll continue second wave. All right, I will show you the first slide. So if you want to take notes, go ahead and let's come back in 10. All right, I'm gonna mute myself. All right, let's come back. If you're back, type 1, please. Thank you. Yes, all right. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so let's continue to the second industrial revolution. Right. So first industrial revolution, this is easy, all right? Okay, 1740 to 1840. Okay, when we talk about timeline, it's like a give or take ish. Right? There's no way you time travel back them and then witness someone waking up on January 1st, 1740 and say, yay, we are in the industrialization age. No. Okay. So 1 century process, okay, and kind of enable Britain, okay, to become this leading state, leading power in Europe. And of course, second industrialization, okay, 1870 to 1914, because by 1914, World War I took place, right? In that case, well, everything, all this, movement, okay, kind of pause, right? Because your only agenda is to win the war, okay, or at least survive the war, right? Okay, so second industrial revolution is led primarily by Germany and US. Okay, so why? Because Germany unified, US no more slavery issue, and US was in under this Reconstruction era, right? So since they're reconstruct the South, right? During the Civil War, Lincoln was shows no mercy to the South, though. He bombed the railroad, bombed the ports, everything. So when the Civil War ended, the previous Confederate Southern states rejoined the Union, right? So it's now the federal government's responsibility to reconstruct the South, right? So since America was reconstructing the South, might as well just industrialize the whole nation, right? Okay, so that's the reason why America and Germany was able to shine in this second industrial revolution. And we talk about that is electricity, petroleum, right? And chemistry as well, also machinization, right? So unification of Germany, what the new German government invested heavily into industrialization with the ambition of Prussia. Okay, Prussia. So Prussia being the dominant German states and responsible for this unification, right? Of course, they want to guide Germany to become the big brother, right? Of a European continent. All right. But they have a target they want to surpass. This time is Britain, right? So Prussia, prior to the unification, Prussia already showed this dominating ambition within this German state, all right? And especially under this very strategic politician, Ottoman Bismarck, right? And he tried to use all kind of strategy to convince all these German states that it will only benefit everybody if we united, right? All right. And this state invested in this expansion of railroad. So basically, what Germany was doing now is try to catch up whatever Britain had done before, okay? And then even make it bigger, all right? So that's what Germany was doing. So this machinization become a trend in this manufacturing industry, all right? So Britain has machinized the textile, right, in the 18th century. And the rest of this manufacturing within Britain was still done by human labor, because the textile was like the dominating industry in Britain, okay? And then others, were pretty much still done by human labor. But labor right now is being organized into what we call factory system, right? So factory system is what? Assembly line, all right? So every workers upon the interview, okay, they're gonna determine what position is best for you, what part of this production you can contribute most, right? So if this production required like, strength, right? So they would place this big men, right, into this position, right? And if some step in this process, in the production process, require like carefulness, right? And maybe they will hire women to do so, okay? And then that's how this factory system was established, right? So not necessarily like a specialization, but kind of, right? So the right worker being placed to the right position, right? And then throughout the production, the process will be break down to step by step, and that's what we call the assembly line, right? Assembly line. So assembly line was actually introduced in Britain, right? And later being adopted by Henry Ford in America. He actually used this assembly line concept to produce automobile. Never before, because the Europeans assembly line focused on this light industry, but Ford adopted onto this heavy industry, right? Also Germany revolutionized production by developing this electricity. So electricity can power even more giant machine now. So, well, if you want to surpass Britain, if you follow exactly British footstep, no, you cannot surpass Britain, right? So you're gonna have some kind of innovation, and Germany did. They developed this electricity, right, to machinize the factory system even further. So the machine they could power now is much greater than steam engine, right? Well, so this large monstrous equipment reduce or like eliminate, sometimes they don't even need human labor anymore, right? So human workers now who were limited, right, could be unfocused or like ineffective, right? So human labor used to be a dominant labor force, but replaced by machine. And that time machine, like steam engine, still require human labor to operate. But Germany was like not good enough. We're gonna replace human labor once for all. So they use this electricity to power the machine, right? And just simply by switch on, switch off, and the machine started to operate. Right, it probably just needed a couple supervisors to monitor, right, in case something go wrong, right? But other than that, everything is conducted by machine, right? So this reduction of human workers, right? So actually cut accidents and costs, right? So machine, if it's like malfunction, it just need to call in the mechanic to repair that. But if back to this human labor dominated manufacturing system, something went wrong, we're talking about life, right? And you're gonna, could pay for their medical cost, and then perhaps reparation, right? But now machine is much easier. Also, machine can produce more. So easy cost of production decrease big time, right? And that would, according to Adam Smith, right? The invisible hand, right? So your production is now high, and then your market price is low. The quantity demand will be high. Okay, so it's a positive cycle, right? Okay, so let's see. How about Russia? We talk about the only railroad Russia had, right? Is Trans-Siberian Railway. This is Russia, right? And then we have America, Transcontinental Railroad. Look at the time, 63 to 1880s. That's during and post Civil War era. Okay, so Germany, America dominated, but Russia tried to catch up, but Russia did not have all this required package deal. So Russia, first of all, even though Russia sitting on this massive land, but their extreme weather kind of limited the nature resource available to the industrialization, right? So what happened if those European states, they really cannot, put into practice with this, railroad, steamboat, and steamboat is possible, but railroad, if you're lack of a deposit of iron, right? Don't worry, we still have what? Canals, right? So, steam engine, like we talked about before, right? Steam engine power steamboat. So used to power steamboat that could carry passengers and cargoes more efficiently, right? Look at the steamboat, the capacity of load. Today, even today, the major international trade, shipping still rely on boats. Of course, it's not a steamboat anymore, right? That powered by gasoline now, all right? That boat can carry more. The capacity is way larger than plane or train, all right? So shipping by cargo over the waterway is still the major transportation shipping means for international trade today, right? So like railroads, of course, right, and electric lines, large scale private investment was used, right? Well, so in order to navigate, this canal was like constructed, right? So this is not like nature river. It's like a man-made, artificial, right? So with this a construction canal, it can link the waterway together into a network, right? Because sometimes river doesn't flow the way you want, right? And you want to, just like you build a freeway, right? So you have the intersection, you can interchange to other highway, right? And get you to your destiny, right? Your right. So canals can also link this waterway, right? So you will see a large scale canals made it possible to connect major industry centers, right? So to connect New York along with Ohio region, the Great Lakes, right? So America construct this Erie Canal in New York, okay? So when the governor of New York State proposed this Erie Canal, and the general public is like mocking at him, it's like, why? We already have a railroad. Why do we need a canal, right? If you want, you find a source for your fund, but the government is not going to finance your project, all right? So the governor actually managed to fund the sponsors, and he actually made this Erie Canal, right? So during the construction, American society kind of joke about this Erie Canal and call it like the big ditch, okay? And but when it was finished, it really speed up the economic development in the Ohio region, right? So on top of that, you will see more efficient and quicker trade routes, right? Like Suez Canal in Egypt that was built by Britain, right? And then that would enable Britain to better colonize Egypt later on, okay? So we're marching into the late 19th century, early 20th century, right? And remember the acronym for World War I, mania. So one of this acronym is I, that is imperialism. So we're almost there, imperialism. So imperialism basically is, during this second wave of industrialization, Britain has already demonstrated their power to the rest of the world, right? Through this Crystal Palace exhibition. And then Germany catch up, right? And France and other European states, of course, okay, they'll try their best to industrialize, right? So to a point, this European states, now they have the technology, the know-how to mass production, right? But there's a problem. Remember Age of Revolution? And we talk about revolution in two different perspectives. One is political revolution, right? The other one is industrial revolution. So political revolution took place in the late 18th century, right? So it's during Britain's first wave of industrialization. So by 1830, recall, pretty much the Latin America, one after one, claimed their independence, right? So these European states, they found themselves in this dilemma. we managed to advance our technology, right? Adopt this industrialized economic system, but somehow we lost our nature resource. It used to be free resource for us because they were colonies, right? Americans, they were European colonies, right? But now they claim independence. So European states is like now we have the machine, we have the equipment, the capital, but we don't have the raw material. It is why not just buy from your previous colony? Of course they can, right? But if you can get something for free, why buy, right? Okay. So that is logic of a European states. Okay, if we can get something for free, why pay for it, right? So now they lose this previous American colonies, right? They need to find a new target to continue their colonization, so that European states they can continue to access to this free nature resource. All right, so that's the logic, right? And the next target Europeans pinpoint would be Africa. All right. So this scramble for Africa then took place, right? That's when the time European powers they got together in Berlin, the Berlin Conference, right? And they just pull out an African map and grab a pen and started to draw lines. Okay, this part is yours, this is mine, that's hers. Okay, so without the consent of Africans, Europeans behind this closed door, having their party, okay, and just carving up Africa, right, to serve their individual interest, right? So in that case, yeah, Europeans they found a new target, or you can say new victim, and they were later on started to colonize Africa. That's the period we call imperialism. All right, so imperialism parallel with the second wave of industrialization. All right, so with the foundation from first wave of industrialization, Europe definitely, when they wanted, they could take down Africa easily, right? Imperialism. So imperialism refers to Europeans' colonization project in Africa. Why? So they can obtain free nature resource, right? So this nature resource being explored in Africa, then was shipped back to Europe, or even closer this time, right? Back to Europe. Why? Because all the equipment capital is in Europe, right? So they can then mass produce, all right? But here comes the next question. You have the free resource from Africa, no doubts, right? And you have the know-how and equipment in Europe, sure. And after the production, you need a market, right? Where are you going to selling your production to? Before the age of political revolution, Europeans could sell back to their colonies, because the colonies, they did not possess this advanced technology to produce on their own. So they rely on the importation from their mother country. And also this export to their own colony kind of served the previous economic system called mercantilism, right? But now these colonies, again, they are independent states now, right? So if you want to sell manufactured goods back to the previous colonies, let's sit down and talk about the trade term. We're not going to just take whatever you give us, right? So this American market is like, especially with the industrialization in America, right? And Europeans lose the competition for American market, right? So they're gonna target a new market. Again, market equals to potential consumers. Potential consumers equal to population. So which country you think a European would target for the market to dump their production from their industrialization? Which country? Okay, it's your turn to shine. All right. Nicolette, what did you say? Which country would be ideal potential market for Europeans, mass production?
Maybe
Think about population.
like the less developed, but with a lot of population,
Mhm.
like countries in Africa, maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Remember this supercontinent called Afro-Eurasia? Think in that direction. So which country? Yes.
I'm not sure.
Which country has the highest population in the world?
India or China.
There you go. Bingo. All right. So the potential, thank you, Nicolette. The potential market to Europeans now would be China and India. China and India, because the population is there, right? So imperialism era refers to this time period when Europeans, they started to prove to the rest of the world they are the economic dominant power now. And then they can take down whatever land they want, right? Because this industrialization definitely would be adopted into military force industry as well, right? So with this technology, you see Europeans that developed, an advanced weapon, okay? The merchant boat, right? Not only equipped with gunpowder, right? With the navigation system, everything, okay? So it's kind of, showing Europeans' desire to kind of, control not just the colony, but the world trade, right? So colonize Africa, enable Europeans to obtain free resource, and then the industrialization back home enable Europeans to mass produce their product. And then only thing they're missing is the market, right? So that would lead to this sphere of influence in China, Lake Qing China, sphere of influence, right? That's when Europeans, they all came to China, try to monopolize Chinese market because population is there once again, right? So of course Qing Dynasty was like, no, we don't need any of your production. We're good. Okay, we have this self-sufficient lifestyle for centuries, right? So we're good. Whatever you can produce, we can do. Whatever you can produce, we cannot. We don't need it. Okay, and that would drive these Europeans crazy, right? Such an ideal market sitting right there, but Europeans cannot, okay, open this market. And until Britain discovered one good that Chinese society really love back then in Qing Dynasty. Anybody knows what that is? Yes, Ryan. Hey, did you forget to turn up your volume? Couldn't hear you though. Okay. Nina, what do you say? Nina, what do you say? Britain finally discovered one goods that Chinese society really need. Nina, are you there? You still there, Nina?
After their demand for silver.
No, that was Ming Dynasty. Now we are in Qing Dynasty. I have answers in the chat room. Yes, yes. Yes to Nicolette. Yes to Ryan. Thank you. It's opium. It's opium. All right. So opium, okay, is highly addictable. All right. And opium is considered as drug still as of today. All right. So smoking opium supposedly will relax you and bring you to this like a total relaxing status, right? And it's so addictive, right? So once this opium was introduced to Chinese society, people there started to get addictive, right? And then the side effect of smoking opium was what? They consume your strength and mess up with your brain, right? So you don't desire anything else at this point. You just want opium. Just similar like this drug issue, right? In modern days, right? So when you're desire for drug, your body system is like, I want more, because your brain remember, this kind of a joy when you use drug, and your body will tell you, you want more, you want more, you want more. Okay, so it's never end, right? So this opium found its way to China, right? Qing government that time, and then society started to show this problem, right? Because after smoking opium, you the best outcome is you just become like so high, okay, and you lose your strength to work, and only thing you want to do is like either smile or do something crazy or sleep, right? But anyway, deep inside your mind, in your brain, you feel so good, okay, but gradually it's gonna consume your health. Opium is gonna consume your health, just like drug today, right? And then Qing government noticed that, right? So decided to ban opium. This government official called Lin Zexu, right? He then burned all this opium that brought in by Britain, and that led to this opium war, and that led to this signing of Nanjing Treaty, right? That part also fit into imperialism era, okay? So imperialism era basically is Europeans colonize Africa, so they have free resource and produce in homeland in Europe, and then sell their products to India and China, right? And of course, China showing no interest in conducting trade with the Europeans, but Europeans use their economic advantage, right? Their industrialization advantage to force Qing government to sign all these treaties, right? And open up the market to Europeans, all right? And after Britain, you see all these European states, they came, right? Germany, Netherlands, right? You name it, Spain, Portugal, America, right? So each one, they claim monopoly, okay, at the trade city, so port city. And that's the era we call sphere of influence. So don't get mistake with this sphere of influence with colonization. Europeans did not colonize China, but they did have their sphere of influence. So each one of them occupy a trade city and monopolize the market. Okay, so to a point, the domestic firms cannot compete with this foreign and enterprise anymore, right? Anyway, so that's the age of imperialism, all right? And age of imperialism parallel with second wave industrialization, all right? So how about the society? Anything developed in the society out of this second wave of industrialization? Oh, yes. Now we have the middle class, right? So the rise of middle class, it's this term was then created, right? So middle class was first used in the 18th century to describe a new level of the social class. The reason they are called middle, because they are not nobles, right? Yes. Yes, Nicolette.
Sorry, what is it called again? The sphere of
Sphere of influence.
got it. Thank you.
Yes, of course. All right. So this middle class is because they are not upper level nobles, but they are not like in the lower level peasants, right? So it's like weird. There's something in between. So it's called middle class, right? So middle class, even though they don't have the title, right? They are not noble, but their power of finance, right? Their financial achievement could compete against this old money, okay? The nobles, right? There's a mini TV series called Gilded Age. Gilded Age. I don't know if any of you watched that. I forgot which network broadcast that. If you're interested in that, you can take a look. I think it's altogether 10 maybe episodes. It actually reflect this time period. All right, somewhere between 1870 all the way to the beginning of World War I, but it's based on American society that time, called Gilded Age. So that will give you some idea Okay, because the setting, it's very historically like a authentic. So you'll see how they built their house, how they dress themselves, how they try to carry on this British civilization culture in America, even though they separated from Britain years ago, right? But they should uphold their royal blood. The old money would be the descendant of the Mayflower, and new money would be this capitalists. And same thing here in Europe. Old money, nobilities, right? Nobles. New money, middle class. Okay. Or if you read the book called Great Gatsby, same thing. Old money, new money. There's conflicts between this, two group of people. Each one look down upon each other. Okay. Because the old money, they uphold their noble blood, all right, their title. But the new money, they're the one who really control the market, right? So the middle class was then introduced to this society, okay, but no social title. Nevertheless, they enjoy their financial status and dominating the market, right? So this middle class, who are they in particular? Either they are the factory owners, or they're plantation mine owners, right? Bankers, merchants. Okay, so merchants is actually considered as upper middle class. Remember the feudalism society in Japan, right? Farmers and fishermen actually consider better than merchants, right? But now changed because we're in capitalism, right? So merchants, it's even considered as upper middle class, upper, right? So they have this economic power, right? So they look down upon, but they were looked down upon by this quickly weakening land-owning noble classes, right? So that's the old money, right? So they're landlord, descendants from the feudalism, Europe, right? Well, so anyway, this in 18th and 19th century, you will see it's defined by a struggle for power between the old elites and the new elites, all right? So they each want power, and the old elites just try to secure, okay, their proclaimed power. But the new elites is like, they're gonna figure out a way, okay, to rise up to social status, all right? So that's middle class. And then we have working class, right? So working class, it's just similar to the previous peasant, okay? Because the industrialization, right? This technology, this know-how, this machinization was widely adopted by various industry, right? Agriculture included. So in this case, agriculture used machines to replace human labor. So these peasants, they found themselves like, we are now redundant, okay, but we still need to make a living. So let's go to the city and find a job. And peasants also would be grouped into this unskilled labor, right? So since they're unskilled, they cannot find professional career job, right? So the only thing they can find is factory. So this previous peasants move into the city and work at the factories. So they are now become working class, all right? So back to this Karl Marx, it's a proposal of socialism. Now we know why, right? He said private property, social class, right? So starting from the slave versus a slave owner, right? And the peasant versus the landlord, and working class versus middle class. That makes sense now, right? So this slaves, it's kind of reflecting the other group of in the class is called peasant, right? And the peasant now become workers, right? So it's always the have-nots versus the haves, right? So larger scale plantation, we have landlords, right? And then agriculture society, right? Again, landlord, right? And then what is it? A industrialized society, we have workers versus what? Bourgeoisie, middle class, right? So this working class versus middle class is a similar to peasants versus what? Lords. Same logic, right? So the lower class is always the one being oppressed, right? And that kind of makes sense why Karl Marx would propose this, socialism ideology. Okay. And how about the family then? So this impact of industrialization and parallel with the imperialism definitely have the impact towards the family structure, right? Well, so the formerly agricultural society, right? You see, the whole family, they pretty much spend 24/7 together, right? They live together, they work together, they eat together, right? So that back to the agricultural society, family connection, family tie was actually much stronger, all right? But when it comes to this industrialization era, European families, the farm families now, they also move to the urban city, right? And then with the higher cost, living cost in the urban city, so now everybody gonna find a job and work and bring home the bread, right? So you will see men and women, okay, would both work at the factory, but probably in different assembly line, all right, and in different position, right? And then so during the daytime, the family, they didn't get chance to get together, right? Because they work in the factory. And then upon the end of the day, call it a day, go home, what did they do? Not much, because they're already exhausted from a long day's work, right? So they probably eat and chat like, how's your day? Fine. How about yours? Yeah, it's okay. Okay. Good night. See you tomorrow. So this kind of a change in family interaction, okay, gradually will lead to the modern days, what we call nuclear family, okay, but not yet though. So this agriculture farming farm family gradually being changed into this working class family, right? So that's the impact upon working class family. And how about the the middle class family? Well, middle class family, they remain home, okay, and to raise and educate their children, because men are young at work. So middle class, you don't need everybody to work to bring home bread, right? Unlike a working class, right? So if only one man work may not earn enough to support the entire family, right? So working class, you will see more likely you have the whole family working at the factory. But middle class is the men, okay, take care of this outside business, right? And women take care of this domestic affairs, right? So that further shape the gender role in European society. All right. So if you see a family that require women family member to secure a job in order to secure income for the family, this family, they cannot even be qualified as working class. They will be labeled with low class, because now you need your wife to work to provide for the family. All right. But that's pretty much what the working class had to cope with. All right. But middle class, never. So that time, if you have a working wife, it's a big humiliation to the head of the family, the men. All right. Okay. So that family changed. Women's role become marginalized to domestic. So women, your job is to do what? Is to do domestic chore and raise the children, okay? And this kind of concept was not new. It was actually introduced back to Americans' history in the 1840s-ish. It's called Republican motherhood. Okay, so same concept in Europe as well. Republican motherhood. So women, don't complain that you don't contribute much to the economy. You actually did. By staying home, take care of the family, raise the children, you create a home for your husband to concentrate in his career. So you contribute to the economy indirectly. Okay, and not to mention, you are educating the next generation, the future generation, to guide the nation forward, right? So this is called Republican motherhood, right? So women, yeah, assume your domestic role. It's an honor. But women graduates, and I don't think so. Okay, that's why we have women's movement in the 19th century, right? So many of this working class family, they were forced to live in small, dirty neighborhoods, right? Really cannot afford for decent apartment. Usually in a single room tenement housing, single room, whole family there. So daytime, living room. All right, mealtime converted into dining room, and bedtime it's bedroom. Okay, so multifunctional room. Okay, well, that's our second wave industrialization. All right, America, Germany was leading. They were leading. Why? America, end of Civil War, beginning of Reconstruction. Germany, the unification. Right. Now I'll bring to our last topic in this chapter is the world trade and economic impact. Now we see imperialism, right? So imperialism is to obtain colony for raw material and secure market for monopoly, right? So that's economic imperialism. So world trade boosted, of course, right? So with all this advanced establishment of factory system, and that lead to this massive manufacturing, right, increase in Europe, the world trade become increased across all trade networks. So remember the trade networks we talk about? That would be unit 2, right? So the network of trading system, right? That time we have network 4, right? Dominated by various power. But now it's what? It's the international trading, right? So this international trade across all trade networks, right? So Europe, once again, before 1800, could not compete against China and India, right? And after 1760, you see goods from America weren't just consumed or sold. They were mostly used to produce goods. So this is a raw material, right? So this that was actually the first wave of industrialization, right? So Britain started to catch up, and China and India, because both China and India refused to industrialize, right? And then not refused to, didn't see the need to, right? So once again, enable the Europeans to rise up, right? So this the large demand for raw material, right? Because you have industrialized manufacture, so you need to secure your raw material, right? So raw material including like a cotton, tobacco, metals, right? So in this European colonies in Africa, Asia, and America, right? But America is pretty much out of the picture, right? So now the new colonies is Africa. Asia, where? Asia is like India. India later will be the British colony under Queen Victoria's reign, right? And which other parts of Asia? China never was colonized, right? And Japan was not colonized either. So which other parts of Asia was actually colonized by Europeans? Southeast Asia, right? That can be traced back to the first wave of colonization, right? Like Philippines colonized by Spain, right? Vietnam colonized by France, right? So that's the Southeast Asia. Okay, that's colonized. And South Asia, when we say South Asia, we actually mean India, All right. Normally we say India, but just College Board likes to call this part South Asia. So when you see South Asia, it equals to India. India, right? Well, so Europe and America, they became the world's largest producers of goods, right? No longer China and India. So this trade route to bringing raw material, because raw material become very essential part of this whole process, right? Raw material, production, market, right? And so raw material to Europe, right? And distribute manufactured Europe American goods into Asia. Okay. So here we have a new way of a production. It's called single export economies. Meaning what? Prior to this emergence of world trade, right? Countries would produce various kind of crops and manufacture different final goods, right? But now since the whole world is like, big market tied together, so you want to trade, right? You of course want to manufacture whatever you do the best, right? So once again, it's called specialization, right? So for domestic market, specialization would encourage this production boost, right? And of course, international trade is not just like an individual right now. It's a country as the unit. So if this country can produce like a coffee in a more efficient way, so how about you just concentrate on producing coffee, and you don't have to produce rice because you can trade with Vietnam. Okay, so you can trade with China, right? So countries started to adopt this specialization, all right? So whatever you do the best, you produce this particular goods, and that will be called single export economies, right? So single export economy, right? So this term actually is another way to say the specialization in trade, right? And that kind of makes sense, right? So it's like, within a family, with the Chinese Spring Festival coming, you're gonna tidy up your house, right? And put on this couplets, right? And prepare for like a special meal and decoration, everything, right? So you will distribute various tasks to each family members, right? How do you distribute or assign tasks? Of course, based on what you're good at, right? And you gotta prepare for the New Year Eve meal, right? So whoever is good at cooking, you do that, okay? Whoever is good in like decorating, right? You have the gene of artist, you do that part, right? And then I have no talents in whatsoever. Okay, I will sweep the floor. Okay, that's what I can do the best, right? So within a family, we already know this will lead to a most productive outcome, right? So everybody take care, handle the part that you're most familiar with or best at, then the production will be efficient. So within the family is this logic, right? Within the community, same thing. Within the state, same thing. Within the world, same thing. So now we just expanded this scope from family all the way to the world, right? So same logic apply. In that case, each state in the world now, just like each family member in your at home, all right? So each country would specialize on one particular production, right? And then you can trade it with other states. So that if you take the production as a whole in this world, it increased big time, right? So this is called single export economies. Mexico, here are your evidence examples, right? So Mexico, they focus on mining these precious metals, right? Copper and silver, and they just export that. Okay. and that would bring in enough revenue for the country. Okay. Peru, do we know what is guano? is a the poo-poo, right, of birds. Why? Because that can be used as like nutrition to the plantation, right? So Peru focus on producing this guano, okay, and that's actually valuable, right? And then Brazil, coffee and cocoa, of course, right? Argentina, beef, okay, famous for the beef. America, cotton and tobacco. Cotton and tobacco, right? So all these goods were either used for production in factory or to meet the dietary needs for growing urban areas, right? So if you look at that metal, normal household individual, we don't really consume metals, right? If I give you 1 ton of iron, what can you do about that? Nothing, right? But to the factory, okay, it's a raw material, right? And they can use this metal to produce kitchenware, weapon, okay. And then guano definitely be used into this agriculture industry. Coffee, cocoa, well, it's for consumption, right? And then of course you can use coffee and cocoa to produce cake, whatever, right? Argentina, beef, consumption, right? Cotton, tobacco. Cotton is raw material, tobacco is consumption, right? So either way, okay, states started to specialize at what they do the best, right? And colonies and new countries like Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, all right, they claimed their independence in 1830, right? So initially benefit from this system, right? But later on, you will see the problem. Because if a country really specialize in this single export economies, right? It worked at beginning because of specialization, right? But be careful though. If that's the only thing you know what to do, if something happened to your like the nature disaster, okay, and destroy your coffee field, then your entire state's economy is now in crisis. All right, because you have no backup, right? That's why we have this rentier state curse, this term. Rentier, not reindeer, right? Rentier state refers to a particular, refers to any state that their major revenue come from exporting their nature resource. If you are relying on this, exporting your nature resource, it could be like a lumber, oil, gas, okay, you name it. So if that's the major revenue for the country, it's not good. It's called rentier state curse. Why? Because you export this nature resource, you're gonna sell your products at the world price. If the world price fluctuate, then your domestic economy also fluctuate. So you see all this OPEC country, right? Nigeria, Mexico used to be, Russia, right? And Middle East. This OPEC states, if you examine their economy one by one, you say, aren't they supposed to be rich, right? Because they have the deposit of oil. But how come their economy is a chaos? Because they're rentier state, right? And not to mention this rentier states very likely to lead to a corrupted government, right? And society. All right. So, but at first, these single export economies actually work and benefit not just the states, but the whole world, right? Then plantation owners, right, especially become quite wealthy. And then what else? They're selling this raw material to the US and Europe for manufacturing, right? So plantation, this time they're planting cash crops. Okay, that's what we call cash crop, right? So economic growth was very small. However, this economic growth was very small in comparison to countries selling manufactured goods, right? So if you compare country who export a single export system, their profit tend to be far less than country who focus on manufactured goods. Because if you export your single item, you are not producing anything. You just take whatever the nature give you. But industrialized manufactured goods is you create your wealth, right? So you turn the raw material into something even more valuable, right? So that explains why Europe planned their economy system this way, right? Get raw material from colonies, manufacturing back home, and that will increase your GDP, right? And create job opportunity as well. And then sell to foreign market, right? So you can, in terms, receive money influx, right? So single export economic system, at first it worked, yes. But later you will see, the wealth gap started to emerge, right? And Europe, this states, they took the part of manufacturing in the whole process of world trade, right? Proved to be more sustainable, okay, and practical, right? So here we have a lower class, right? Were not paid nearly as well as the working class in Europe and US. Okay, so economic growth was slow or non-existent, right? So lower class, they were not paid as like working class, right? What is lower class? Who remember? Isn't working class at the bottom already? Lower class is not that long ago we talked about that. Lower class refers to the family who had to ask the women to work. All right, so lower class become a social problem though, right? But upper class, okay, this middle class, they started to indulge themselves with this luxury goods. So this luxury goods, including like what? Diamond, all right? And precious metal like gold, right? Silver. So middle class, they're struggling to secure power in their society, right? But they don't have the title, the honor. The only thing they can do is to show off their wealth, right? So they would purchase all this luxury goods, including like African ivory, African diamond, right? And gold. So everything was decorated with gold. If you go to if you visit any African wealthy families, right? This warlords, you see they probably even have like a gold toilet. Gold, the entire toilet seats made of gold. Okay. That's actually I forgot the name of the hotel in Saudi Arabia, 7 stars. If you check into the hotel, you see the bathroom is actually made of gold. All right, that's how wealthy Saudi Arabia is, because they have deposit of oil. But isn't that the curse? Well, sometimes when the world oil price fluctuate, and then Saudi Arabia will be affected, right? Anyway, so this middle class, okay, they would show off their power, try to improve their social status by consuming this luxury goods, right? And that lead to another tragedy, right? So the demand for diamond surge up. And where we can find the most deposit of diamond? South Africa, right? So this entrepreneurs, capitalists, they rush into South Africa, right? And of course, they will not do their own mining. That's too labor intense work. So they would hire, quote unquote, local Africans to do all the mining, and then they will then pay them either by labor or purchase from them. And the raw diamond in the rough, right? It's sold to this capitalists at a very, very cheap price. Leonardo DiCaprio, he was actually in the movie called The Blood Diamond, that reflect this time period as well. Okay, so as the time approached to more modern, we have more literature work can help us to better understand the setting, the contextualization, right? And then If you don't want to read, you don't have time to read, watch some movies that give you the at least basic understanding how this age was like, right? So when I think of any literature work, I would just share with you. And if you're interested, you can check it out. And that will help you to better understand this era. This is, historical context, right? And here comes China, right? You probably will see this political cartoon as well, right? So 19th century imperialism, right? China, we talk about that, the sphere of influence. That's this. So Europeans, once again, try just like what they did to Africa. They did the same thing to China, right? But the difference is China was not colonized, right? So that will satisfy the Europeans' agenda, right? Africa, you assume the role of a raw material provider, and Europe continue to industrialize and handle this production part, and then China, India, you will serve the role as a market. All right. So they have territory from Africa and Oceania for raw material. And the Oceania refers to what? Australia, New Zealand, right? Also required territory for new market, right? That's mainly in Asia. Again, population talks, right? So do so, Europeans and Americans either took territory and controlled it directly, like in India, right? India was first monopolized by East India Company, but because of the riots, the coup, right? And then forced the British government to take it over and simply colonize India, or force this foreign government to do their bidding, right? That's China. So Europeans control Chinese government, so they control the market. Okay, so they did not need to colonize at all. Okay, as long as the Chinese government, cannot fight back, and then the whole market is yours, right? So, you see this subjugated states, they were often not colonized, right, or run directly by Western powers, but Western companies and government directly or indirectly influence the native governments, right? And then colluded with their leaders or like for economic benefits, right? So this practice here is known as imperialism, right? So imperialism parallel with industrialization with too, all right? And that continued all the way till the outbreak of World War I, okay? So with this, we conclude our topic today. Right, so here, age of industrialization and its consequences. What's the consequences? Well, new concept emerge, imperialism, right? Consequences is scramble for Africa, sphere of influence in China, right? And then this overutilizing natural resource is gonna be a problem later on, right? In 21st century, okay? Okay, so today we have a DBQ contextualization and along with thesis. For the rest of the class meeting, we're gonna use the very same prompt to practice DBQ, okay? Break down rubric one by one, okay? So today, your job is to work on contextualization and thesis. Just follow your own way to do so, all right? And we'll talk about it, how to compose contextualization along with your thesis tomorrow, all right? And the last class meeting, we will go through a sample essay to better understand what exactly are these 7 points in DBQ, all right? So today you need to compose contextualization along with thesis, answer directly to the prompt. And I already sent your TA the prompt, and when you get it, start working on that, all right? Okay then, questions, ladies and gentlemen? As soon as I know, I see no hands. Okay then, so in that case, thank you for attending. You all have a nice day, nice evening, good night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Bye. Drug, yes. China, yes. Opium, yes, I think it's originated from the poppy plant. Yes, you're right, Ryan. Are you still here? You are. Okay. So it is similar to feudalism. What is similar to feudalism? Oh, you left. Okay. Environmental. Okay. Yeah, consequences environmental. All right. Bye, Maggie.